Crit Life, what's up everybody? We are back from Tour of America's Dairyland, and this video is a little delayed because we were racing hard for 6 days. I was hanging with the Canberra squad, and we were just trying to gel, have a good time. Even with 50-minute races, the morning's very slow, but then you're super busy afterwards, and just didn't get to record anything, and also didn't want to put anything out during the race because, as I'll talk about now, some of my teammates are saying, bro, you got to make friends. Don't say something and piss people off. Because I know some of the guys I was racing against, I'll give people some crap if I think they're helping another team too much, and we'll get into all this. But what I want to talk about in this video is not really just the metrics of these videos. I want to be able to give my perspective that hopefully will help you in races, and especially if you go to Toad. Cool series in Wisconsin. So what I'm going to talk about for the whole series, just kind of what the power requirements were and what type of racing there was. And then stage by stage, what was the biggest event that happened? Like we locked horns, Craig and I, at the end of stage 2. And this was a good lesson in gelling with a new teammate. And I'll explain real quickly the past that I have with Craig and where our future might go together as teammates, as I'm sort of in between this. When do I do Pro 1-2 races and when do I do Masters races? And I'll explain that because I was talking to Will today. He said, oh, wait, are you doing the Pro race at Green Mountain? I said, yeah, dude, I'll just say it now. I'm doing P1-2 as long as I can be relevant, and it's not a big crit. You're not going to see me at Sunny King in the P1-2 field, although I'll talk about it at the end of stage 5. I talked to Adam Meyerson because we had a couple words of just little grumblings during the race, and he said, bro, you need to learn how to drive better. You need to go to the pro race again and not be here. And he had some really interesting points, and maybe he's someone I need to reach out to for the podcast. But yeah, so this is going to be more of a storytelling with tips to hopefully help you. You might not need to watch this on YouTube. Feel free to listen to the audio version on the podcast. Also, for those of you that are into the technical details, we're working on getting the podcast even more souped up with better audio, better editing. I appreciate a guy who had reached out with some ways to do this that aren't absolutely killer in terms of time. So yeah, hopefully we'll continue to make this a better podcast for you in the future. And let's just get into this. So if you know Dairylands, it's 11 days. Now I'm like, wait, is it 11 or 12 days for the pros as well as for 50 plus? That's something to look forward to. They have 2 Omniums. The Masters 40 plus only starts from day 7 and runs, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I guess it is 12 days. We start, or maybe it was day 6. God, I'm terrible. Okay, clearly I didn't totally outline the whole series. I'm just doing my 6 days. First day, the race is at Cedarburg, and there's obviously nervous energy as it's the first crit. Everybody's kind of trying to size everybody up. We know who the big teams are with Texas Roadhouse. Jaden from Wisconsin rides for Bahati's old team, Methods to Winning with Sharon, and Tanner's their third teammate. So they're a small squad, but powerful. Core had a bunch of guys. Carlos Casali was there with I want to say Intelligentsia. You guys know, Meteor team. But they were coming off 50-plus racing. And so I was pretty adamant that if we're getting shellacked at all by 50-plussers after they've raced for 5 or 6 days, then we did not train properly. A bunch of those guys ended up leaving early. Chris Carlson was there. And there's a couple guys, the White brothers, who I didn't know, but people were like, yo, watch out for these dudes. And it's Masters racing. There's always just strong athletes. And the way I also look at it is a lot of people aren't going to travel all the way to Wisconsin if they're not in shape. Most people aren't going there to find form, let's say. And really crit, the watts, the up and down, the 2 things I would say: normalize power. If you were active in the group and throwing haymakers and trying to make things happen, you're probably doing 4.5 to 5 watts per kg normalized. Average power is definitely lower. I think the important thing is it's going to be 7 to 10 minutes depending on the race. And even actually TOSA, which has the climb, is more of a VO2 max climb, that you're going to be doing that, 130 to 160% FTP. That's obviously a range, but just if someone's new to Masters racing or new to crits, obviously it's a lot of smashing. So I'm not going to go into details on watts of every race. I think there's more important lessons that we learn from each one. So the first day, there was a break. We just got in a break. There were 5 of us getting up the road that people said, oh, dude, you guys were gone. And apparently there's a really bad crash and we got neutralized. So that was a very awkward time to stop the race. When it restarted, Jaden Yeager got off the front, and you can't let him off the front. He wins the Masters National TT, I'm going to say almost every year, because I don't know if it's every year. It's every year of the past few years. Absolute beast mode. Nobody seemed to want to chase him, which was interesting, and we'll get to that in day 2 as well. Finally, we were coming around. Jaden was out of sight. I dropped the hammer on the backside, got away with one of the White brothers. We ripped it, and I came in second, and he came in third. So stoked to get on the podium the first day. Nobody, Canberra, Craig had raced towed a few years and was getting some top 10s, but I don't think we were really on anyone's threat list. So it was good to get up there. And from what I had heard, it sounded like more guys were committed to not being a group sprint this year than previous years, where most of the time people don't get away. And I said, dude, with Jaden in this race, I don't know. He either gets away or you're not getting away. This guy is just beast mode and is probably the biggest factor in the race. So Jaden won day 1. So when we left, this is what I want to talk about in terms of tactics and how I'm going to take some blame for this, if not all the blame, because we had said, whatever happens, this is going to be a road race course, but it's only a 25-mile circuit, and you do, so it's like an hour. I had said to my teammates, Mark and Craig, I said, whatever happens, Jaden does not ride away. And so I had told Craig, initially, you're going to watch him. Just, you don't have to stick on his wheel. I hate when people, I don't want to call it negative racing, but if you see him making moves, dude, that is your guy. That is your guy. Well, the rainstorm sprint competition was happening, and they ring the bell on the first lap. So at the end, when you go around in the second lap, you can get points. And Craig got in a move early, and let me actually skip to the end. This is the storytelling part. No, I'll finish this. Sorry. Craig gets in a move. It gets brought back. When you took the third corner, there was a headwind section. No, actually, after the second. Sorry, guys. First corner, second corner. Yeah, after the third corner, headwind section. Then the last corner was a straight to the end. I attack into the headwind. Just trying to see if I can get a split, something, make this more of like a road race, be aggressive early. I get brought back right before the corner. And after you take that corner, it's sort of a slight uphill rise. Well, we're all on the right side of the road, and Jaden drifts towards the left, and I can see him winding it up. Well, I'm assuming Craig's just got this, right? Jaden just slowly rides away. And I start chasing him, and he's riding away, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to drag everybody. So I flick people through, and no one comes around me. I thought, no way oh my God, are we doing this again? He's going to ride away. So Jaden starts to get a gap. When we take a turn, I get in the group, I recover, we turn again. So going around the first corner again, I hammer it. I'm doing 420 to 440. And he was far enough away that it was hard to tell if I was inching closer. 4 guys bridge up to me. So I'm like, great. 5-on-1. We can chase this guy down with 5 guys. Jaden's a beast, but with 5 people. And they all sit on my wheel and sit up. And I said, the race is up the road. And the guy's yelling, we're going to be racing for second. I said, dude, who are you what are you telling me that for? He's like, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm telling everybody else. And I look at the guy and said, yo, dude, are you seriously going to ride up to me and sit on my wheel when the race is going up the road? He goes, I couldn't possibly race with him. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Why are you here? And this is a strong rider. I'm not going to call him out because that's not the point of this video, but people did not want to chase Jaden down. And that was such a disappointment. And that, I learned something though. And here's, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. I just want to share my experience. I try not to ever get frustrated by how someone's racing. That's not in my control. And of course, there's times where you say something to somebody like, dude, what are you doing? And I really shouldn't do that. In this moment, I learned something for the next 4 stages. People are scared of Jaden, and many of them are not going to do anything about that. They're going to let him just walk all over them. And that was a bummer. But I think there might also be another twist, some alliances that we might not know about. So we're in the group. Jaden's gone. He's going to win again. I took a last blast flyer with 2K to go and got caught maybe at 100 meters. I set a season 3-minute PR. It was 85, 90 degrees out, 50 minutes of racing in my legs. I was pretty stoked about that effort when I found out after the race, but here's the teammate thing. Roll up to the car, and Craig's like, well, hey, excuse, I guess not French. He goes, well, we raced our balls off. And I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, well, you don't seem happy. I said, no, man, I'm pissed. He's like, why? He's like, we raced really hard. I said, do you know who else raced really hard? Whoever came in last place. He raced really hard too. I didn't come to Wisconsin to race hard. And I was a little pissy. And here's my history. And this was a great lesson that I learned. Sorry, I probably said that 5 times already. But when I was with Patrick, and Patrick's the last probably, teammate that I did a ton of racing with, he was the same mindset. When we came back to the car, if we didn't win, we were like, F, what the hell did we do? F. And how did we screw that up? It was win or be upset. And that's how our team, me and Patrick as a team, we cope. That's how, I even remember being with Vatzik. I would win a race on the Nalgene team in upstate New York, and he'd roll up, be like, yo, man, you messed that up. And he would let me know what I did wrong. Maybe I attacked or gotten a move of 3 when we could have had 2 of us in the move. And, it was come to win or be disappointed. And not to say we left sour or we left, being poor sports, but within our team, we were not happy unless we won. And I think that was something that has always driven us. And Craig didn't know that about me necessarily. And I didn't know, I didn't know. Craig has a very zen mind, if you know him, and he's a very chill person, but he's a silent killer also. And he was a little bit better at seeing the big picture maybe in that moment. And, the nice silver lining was he did get the jersey for a day, so he was on the podium for Canberra. And so I went up to him and Mark afterwards and just said, hey, man, you know what? I'm really sorry that I brought that negativity back to the car. Here's why I was feeling this way, and tell me more about how you were feeling. And it sparked a really good conversation about, and immediately Craig said, no, man, he's like, it's all good. I just needed to calibrate that's how you were going to feel about this. And we both really, and not to try and pat ourselves on the back, but we both try to see the other person's side, not only from where we were coming in that mini moment, but how we view the race. And the thing I want to say is that I screwed up is that with it being so hot, and when Craig got in that first early move, racing happens, right? You can have your game plan, but the race unfolds and we need to adapt. And we were both trying to replay this in our minds. When Craig got brought back, we had 2 turns. We had maybe, a 5-mile lap? We had 2 miles before I hit it into the backside. And in that time, he was thinking, hey, I was just in this move. It's hot. You're not always thinking clearly. I attack. It gets brought back. I don't think he was maybe ready for, if Jaden countered, I kind of put him on the back foot. He was just off the front with a guy. That was maybe more my bad. When he got in the move, I should have been thinking, okay, now I'm on Jaden, or talk to Mark. Mark, you're on Jaden, watching him, being alert to him, so that when Jaden went, none of us were ready for it. And so I think the biggest lesson that I took from stage 2, day 2, was what was my error before I come back being pissed off. And I will come back with that. Yo, you know what? Maybe I screwed up. Maybe I should have been watching him, but just so everybody knows here, I'm really pissed with how we executed this as a team. And this was how I see my errors. And I think that would have come off in a much more mature and constructive manner. So lessons learned. Day 3. How long is this video already? Damn, I was going to try to make this 30 minutes. Day 3, pre-ride the loop, super rough course. Fast start. There's a pretty sharp turn on turn 2. So there seemed to be some nervous energy right from the gun, and nothing's getting away. I tried 3 or 4 times, and this is not a great course for me with so many turns. With how I race, I need some space to really open it up. Even if you can open up and do 600 watts for whatever duration, it's such a short moment of time before you're turning and then re-accelerating again, all that, downshifting takes its toll. I was trying to get in the brakes. Again, Jaden was on the front. The thing that was alarming to me is that Jaden's on the front and Texas Roadhouse has 5 guys lined up behind him. I can appreciate Jaden's confidence in what Sharon can do, but at the same time, Jaden's peeling off with 2 laps to go, leaving Sharon to battle for himself against Bahati and 5 other Roadhouse guys who are not slouches in their own right. It just didn't make sense to me. And then I was thinking, oh, wait, maybe they're not chasing Jaden because he's riding on the front for them. He's pulling me back. No, and Jaden's super strong, but if people actually countered my moves, I was getting pulled back and hoping, dear God, will someone else attack, please? Like, are we going to ride 6 days behind Jaden? Again, I can't get frustrated at that. If that's what people came to do and people think they can win the sprint, I think you have a very small shot of that unless your name is Rassam Bahati, Lee Bumgardner, or Jaden himself riding away from people. So, I wasn't getting frustrated. I'm just like, okay, this is a different race. I'm going to try to stay towards the front. And with a lap to go, this guy who I had not seen in the race yet that day, which is usually the person who ends up winning sometimes, Lee comes flying past everybody. Craig and I try to get on his wheel. We come around that sharp corner. I blast as hard as I can go. Just could not latch on. Lee was gone, and he stayed away for the win. So kudos to him. That was incredible. I was, I like Jaden. He's a nice guy. I was glad he didn't win 3 days in a row. I was glad Texas Roadhouse didn't win because I saw them as the biggest squad, and they were definitely going to get their dubs. It was nice to shake it up, and I think that really had a reset for everybody in the field. Okay, somebody new won. What else could we do as a team? We went back as Canberra and said, how can we try to be a factor in this race again? And really, going to day 4, a lot of the same stuff. I still hadn't learned my lesson. Shorewood, I'm still throwing attacks. There's a lot of fighting for wheels. Yeah, I won't even get into... Some people make comments when they want to take a wheel, and if you can't hold the wheel in front of you, someone's going to ride in there and take the wheel. You got to learn to deal with that. We'll leave it at that. With 2 to go, Jaden's doing his thing. He starts to peel off, and I said, hey, if there's ever going to be any confusion, it's right now. And so I attack up the right side, and I hear the Texas Roadhouse guys say to each other, hey, everybody chill. No big deal, no big deal. And one guy from Kelly Benefits came with me, and we just rip as hard as we can. I was having a hard time on the second corner, seeing the inside line. There was a little grade and you could go on the inside. We were going so hard that it was either on 2 laps to go or 1 lap to go. I was seeing double. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope I don't hit this thing. Just absolutely ripping. And on the last backstretch, I got to see Rassam's video. Shout out to Rassam for some really good posts. And Chad Birdman Berzdakowski. That's not Berzel. I can't pronounce your last name. I have to see it written out, but they call him Chad Birdman. He absolutely rips it, closes a massive gap. I could hear him coming as we went into the last turn. So that was a bummer. It was another super solid effort, just not enough, and got a bunch of kudos for that. But it's like, it's great to get kudos. We were trying to come for a win. As I said before, we weren't coming to just race hard. We were trying to get a dub. Rassam Bahati took it. It was pretty cool. I got to meet Rassam for the first time. I've been following him probably from back in his rock racing days. And really when I first started cycling, seeing this guy who obviously is a beast on the bike. And I saw him before the road race. On day 2, I rolled up and I saw Frankie Andrew, and he was saying what's up to me on day 1. We've kind of crossed paths through just when he announced his crits and stuff. I said, hey, Frankie, how's it going? Da-da-da. And I saw Rassam sitting there. And so I rolled up. I was like, yo, dude, my name is Brendan. It's great to meet you. Obviously, you do a ton of incredible stuff on your bike. I said, but man, and if people don't follow him on Instagram or what he's doing off, I would highly recommend it. I said, it's the stuff that you do off the bike that is super inspiring. And yeah, I hope you just keep doing what you're doing. And it was really cool to meet him. He just, I don't know him outside of we've probably raced each other 5 times over the years, more master stuff. Or I think he was at like the Emmett Smith Grand Bondo when they were giving away 10 grand or 5 grand. And I went with the hit squad. He was with, who was he racing with? The guy who won Tulsa and Eric Marcotte, I believe. But anyways, cool to meet Rasan. Just, man, when you think you're busy, just follow his Instagram. You're like, damn, this guy is everywhere. So, I was kind of excited to see Rasan win, even though we wanted to get the dub. And day 5, it starts raining. Downers. Apparently it rains here every year. We had not had rain yet. The lesson was, and I'm not arguing in what Adam Myerson had to say to me, but I'm throwing attacks still. I'm trying to make something happen. Jaden's pulling everything back. Maybe I was getting a little frustrated. There are times when it's like I'm moving up and I'm trying to move into a couple lines here, and there were maybe the second time Adam and I kind of bumped shoulders a little bit, and he said something, and the pace was high, and so I couldn't hear what he said. And so I was like, well, he's not happy with this. And unfortunately, that day there was a crash with 2 laps to go. A guy overlapped wheels and it's created a chaos. From what I've heard, it wasn't. I mean, people always want to blame somebody. It's like, that sucks this guy overlapped wheels, but crap happens. It's a bike race. And so, huge split in the field with 2 to go. And Rasan ended up winning from a small bunch sprint. And so I went up to Adam afterwards. And I was like, yo, man, sounds like you weren't happy. Instead of just telling me I suck, can you give me a pointer of what you saw that I was doing wrong? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm happy to talk to you after the race. And we're like on the cool down map. I'm like, I'm good. He's like, oh, you want to do it right now? I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, okay, man, you need to do the pro race because you need to learn how to drive. I'm like, okay, tell me more. He said, there's a flow and there's 2 lines going and you're the crazy line. And I was like, I said, well, man, I'm the crazy line a lot of times because do you want to just sit here behind Jaden and sprint? And here's a good tip. Adam's a sprinter. Adam's won a lot of races. Adam's been racing crits for literally almost 50 years. And I'm not a crit guy. I race some crits, but I'm not in a race to flow and sprint at the end. And so he said, you got to learn how to drive. You need to go to a pro race and watch a guy like Rasan Bahati. How does he move up? When does he pedal? He goes, dude, you pedal a lot. I try to pedal as little as possible. You're always pedaling. I'm like, dude, but I'm attacking. I'm trying to shake stuff up. I'm hoping that after I attack, someone else for the love of the Lord attacks over the top of me. Like, I want to see somebody else besides Jaden control the race. And he goes, no, man, I want to see that too. But then when you come back, you're just flying in. And so, I'll take that to heart for sure. It's how can I be more graceful around other riders and not just try and use brute strength because that didn't work this week. And that's obviously cycling 101. But I think that sometimes it's easier for myself to try and lean on a strength, which is watts, as opposed to lean on bike handling. That's not my strength. And so I told them, I'm like, listen, dude, this is not what I excel at. I'm here to try and get better. I'm here to try and be with the team and add something to their dimension as a team. And maybe I'm not doing that. He's like, no, he goes, I've listened to what's been going on this week. He was doing a lot of 50 plus stuff before in the pro races. And this was his first 40 plus race with us. He's like, there's better ways to do it. And so it was cool. It was a great conversation. I appreciated his candor, and I think it's, somebody I should probably reach out to get on the podcast. All right, last one, day 6. I'm like, okay, Jaden's chasing me down. I'm going to wait and see what this guy has to do. Jaden in Shorewood, I got up the road. He bridged up with 3 other guys, and I flicked people. I'm like, this is a great break. I said, dude, will you ride with me? He goes, no. I'm like, okay. So he's not going to ride with me. Can I maybe drop this dude on the climb? Possibly. Can I hold it to the line? No. Can I outsprint him? Yes. I will outsprint Jaden 9 out of 10 times. But I don't know if there's going to be other people in the sprint if I can outsprint them. Well, it's kind of a pinched corner going into this little climb. And when I say climb, it's a 20-second effort, if that. Yeah, it's probably 20 seconds, 15 seconds. And then you rip down, take a sharp left, come down, do a couple turns, and then it's a headwind on the way to the finish line, and then you go back up. And so maybe a couple laps in, people are throwing a couple little punches, and there was just something, that thing in my head that was like, yo, go hard this lap. Go hard right now. So I take off, and a gap opens very quickly, and I'm with a guy from Core, Pat, who had been around me in the races all the time. We're actually kind of battling for wheels a couple times where I was like, yo, dude, do you want this wheel? We're 20 laps to go. And he was in a position where he's like, yo, do you want that wheel? So we were friendly battling. And so we just start ripping. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe Jaden's going to come across by himself. Well, long story short, he comes across with Lee Bumgardner, who's with also Chad Birdman again from Roadhouse. And I know Lee is watching Chad because Lee wants to get the overall, and I don't think he's so concerned with the win on the day. He wants the GC. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know if I can outsprint Chad, and I really don't know if I can outsprint Lee. But after the first, we did 400 watt normalized. We were at, I think, 25 or 30 minutes in. It was like 430 normalized. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get away. But again, if I get away, Jaden's going to drag everybody back to me. So I'm thinking, okay, you know what? My move is wait for the sprint. I've won enough little mini bunch sprints, and I dropped my chain at one point. And the tip is always know how to get your chain back on in a bike race. It flipped over the big ring. And so there's a point where you can really jam it up, but there's also the point where as you slowly pedal and you click your front derailleur to go to the small chain ring, it just drags it back over to the small and you go back to the big. Now you want to do that, what I just said, in 10 seconds, be able to do that in 3. And so I latched back on, and with 2 to go, I thought, okay, I'm in for the sprint. We came around the corner, and I think I misjudged the win, and I still don't know the exact answer to this, but the only flag that I could see was this rainstorm banner flag at the start-finish, but there's 2 buildings before and after it, and so I was thinking the wind was coming right to left on the final stretch. When we turned that corner, maybe somebody can correct me if that was in the race, I'm watching Lee, who's not really leading it out, but we're all kind of cat and mousing, and I'm thinking of jumping, but I don't want to be the first one to jump because of the wind. And Chad kind of starts to make a move up the right-hand side, which I'm like, he's going on the wrong side. And so Lee starts to hit it, so I start to hit it, and I can see Pat next to me hitting it, and I jump to go out to the left and just feel wind and think, oh, damn, I've screwed this up. And so I try to jump back into Lee's draft, and Chad is kind of inching closer to Lee. And then I can see Pat coming around me, and that was actually super. I was like, I'm not losing the podium. And I just went as hard as I could, and it was just a drag race that never changed. Lee, Chad, me, Pat, Jaden, and a 50-plus guy. I'm sorry I didn't look up your name before this, who won 50-plus and beast moded it in, since we were kind of cat and mousing. 2 laps, was making up like 15 seconds a lap. Super effort. Kudos on your win of the overall. But I messed up that sprint, and that's disappointing. And so I think end of the day, I've left this race, a second place, a third place. I ended up second in the lowland sprint competition. Maybe I go for that next year. I think I've left the happiest and most fulfilled having not won a race over 6 days. I learned a lot in being a better teammate, being a better person. I learned a lot in trying to, when things weren't working, I felt like we adapted. Even though we were still throwing haymakers, it was like, okay, we know what Jaden's going to do. We know what Texas Roadhouse is going to do. How can we throw a wrench in this? How do we attack this? We started trying to think outside the box. We were throwing Mark in some breaks. We were, just trying to do different things. And even though it didn't help us in 2024 to get on the podium in first place, I know it will have helped us in growing together if I decide to ride with these guys for 2025. And we're going to start talking about that because Craig's just a really good friend that we've become a lot closer over the past. We've known each other since my upstate New York racing days. He coached with EVOQ for a little bit, and we've just kind of kept in touch. And that's the reason I went, is I was stoked to go hang out and do 6 races with him and kind of get to know Mark. So, closing thoughts, keep trying new races. Keep, even though I don't consider myself a crit guy, someone said, why are you going to Dairylands, man? You don't even really like crits. I'm getting more into them. I'm leaning more towards crits than I am gravel at this point. I'm kind of falling out of gravel. Maybe that's a different podcast, but I'm going to take to heart what Adam said. Maybe I get into some pro crits. I just registered for Green Mountain that last day as a crit, and I think part of it has just been I didn't want to talk about my hip and back in this video, but I just can't smash for 70 minutes. I was getting pain about halfway through in these races, but it was tolerable. I can't do a 70 to 90 minute crit yet at that intensity. It's just, I'm 25 minutes in. It's like, well, why 50 minutes left? I'm not going to do a race when I'm not at that physical capacity. And also, it really beats down my psyche when I'm just getting clobbered and like I'm going to DNF. That's not fun. So hopefully in the next few months, we've learned a lot. I've learned so much about my body and continuing to make slow strides forward, but that's another podcast in itself. So Tour of America's Dairylands, thanks for a great trip. I'm looking forward to 2025 in so many ways. Hopefully you pulled something from this podcast. We'll have more of the pro interviews coming. We have more of these short, this is a 6-day series. I'll have more of the 8-10 minute videos, mini pods coming. And if you need help and you can't get a coach, check out our TrainingPlans Store. We revamped and put in a ton of time into that. I'm confident that they are the best plans out there. Hit me up with questions, Brendan at EVOQ.bike. Talk to you soon. Good luck with your training and racing. See ya.